Monchi's podcast.
Perfect. Sick. Nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
I really appreciate that you come on to the podcast. Yeah. How has your day been?
So far, so good. First day back at work from the holiday celebrations and such. And it's actually a bit weird because in Italy, we also celebrate the 6th of January.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big thing here. So actually, next weekend is going to be quite hectic as well, party-wise. It's another long weekend.
Yeah.
But most of my clients are not from Italy, so I need to get to work and like catch up with things before the weekend starts.
Yeah. What are you? What kind of job you're working?
I am a marketing manager mostly, and I work with quite a few entities from the scene. Let's say I work a lot with festivals, record labels, artists of different kinds as well. Of course, I have other types of clients that I do marketing for, but mostly I manage the digital marketing for these kind of businesses. Can be from social media, ads, copywriting, doing the marketing strategy in general for such entities, as I like to call them. Not sure if it's correct in English.
Yeah. I think you can. It's a legit expression. Yeah, I'm super unexperienced at marketing, and I just was looking up once a tutorial about how to make social media marketing or how to market digital products in general, and it seemed to me like not like on one hand really obvious what's the target, but on the other hand like also a little bit intangible what's like the core of a marketing practice or whatever. Like is there, for example, one certain activity which you do over and over again in marketing, or what's like one of the core activities you do there?
Apart from reassuring my clients that everything is going to be all right and that they will become rich and famous eventually. Yes, no, definitely. I started with this job, especially for the psytrance scene, because I realized that many of the artists and organizers that I worked with or that I admired, that I played, like whose tracks they played in my DJ sets, they had no idea of how to communicate themselves, especially through the digital media. And since it came very natural to me, I studied communication at university. I was always quite fond of technology and communication. I thought that it was something basic, but then I actually realized that many people maybe are able to create amazing music and everything that looks super difficult, complicated to me, but they're not able to communicate it well. So I started, working a bit with festivals and then doing some beats for other parts of the festivals themselves, and then artists, and then record labels eventually.
Yeah.
And yes, I think I started doing social media management in general that involved also copywriting, managing the posts, all of that. And a recurrent activity was to actually speak to an artist or a label manager and say, okay, so what do we want to tell our following, our followers this week?
Yeah.
More often than not, it's very casual because we don't know what's going to come up. We don't know what graphics are going to be ready. We don't know when the releases are going to be out. And so we want to build some hype or not for different reasons. In general, I think that they specialized in targeting. So doing ads for people that are going to buy certain services, such as releases or festival tickets. Or also I do audience expansion. That is, like doing ads to show the content of an artist or a record label to the relevant people that are actual potential followers and not random people, fake profiles, or people that maybe will click on follow but then will never actually interact with the clients. I specialized in this, I must say. I think that I do it fairly decently.
Yeah.
And yes, in general, I consider myself a strategist in terms of there are certain things that I can do better than others, but marketing is something that is all interconnected with the product, with the placement, with the people that you choose to be receiving your content.
Yeah, I guess because it's so related to everything, it's so intangible to me, like we're in the middle of all those different branches, like the marketing aspect is popping up. I feel like a lot of times it's just like asking like the right questions. Like, for example, like, what do we want to tell our followers this week? Like, it's a legit question. I would never ask myself, but it totally makes sense that if you want to reach a broader audience, you should ask yourself stuff like this.
Yeah, but it's easier than you might think if you have a calendar. Like if you know that like this month you're gonna, and for example, you are an artist that I love, by the way. If everyone wants to know, I love this guy's music. And you might know that you will have a certain tracks ready at a certain point. And so you want to make sure that on that precise day, you have all the graphics and the promotional material ready. And then you decide, depending on how much material you're going to produce in terms of promotional material, how to place it within, like, throughout the weeks, and what to do also for the rest of the week. If we are deciding to post every day or only like a few times a week, and why we are doing it. And sometimes, people just go by inertia, and they just. Some people are just crazy geniuses, and whatever they do, they get a lot of following and approval and engagement. Some others need a little help in their planning, and I'm happy to do that, especially for the artists that I find valuable, that make the music that I like, because that motivates me a lot.
Yeah.
As well as festivals that I love, and especially for festivals that I attend, that I value a lot for what they do. And so, yes, I'm also happy that artists, labels, festivals put their trust in me for growing their business.
Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. I actually had in mind, like, I wanted to ask you if you could, like, introduce yourself, but we already tick that box a lot. I have the feeling.
Oh, but we haven't actually, because I do many more things apart from. This is the boring. This is the boring part.
Yeah, this was okay. This was like the boring job part, and now I think it would be good if you introduce yourself to the listeners, like with the nice sparkling part.
So my name is Kneeko. I am a psytrance enthusiast, and I made certain life decisions that made me more and more intertwined with the psytrance scene, both from my job side that we explored already, then from my artistic side, because I'm also a DJ and a new label manager, because I just started my record label. I manage events. I manage bits of events for larger organizations, from my events that I do in a squat here in Rome, from working in the art gallery at Modem. Maybe someone knows me from there because I explain the psychedelic artworks at Modem to the people that come.
Ah,
which is,
nice.
yes, a fun part of my job. Then, yes, I've been DJing for 18 years.
Wow.
Let's say, under the name Child OS.
Crazy.
And I also started a new record label called Blast Police Music, with which I try to develop a newish subgenre of underground psytrance.
Yeah.
With the help of some artists that support my vision, which I'm really grateful to. I have quite a few aspects of my life that I consider quite interesting and different from my experience in the scene from a longer time than many others that maybe came to the scene in the past decade.
Yeah.
And I'm a queer person, so I have that point of view of our scene as an artist as well, which is, yes, quite specific, let's say, compared to someone else's experience.
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah.
You can ask me anything.
Yeah, I
about
would.
all these things.
I had already some question in mind about how this. I was wondering. Actually, also in the last podcast I did with Inside Out, we were wondering about the origins or like the idea of the Blast Police record label foundation.
Let's say that the whole idea started from my experience as a DJ. I started DJing Psytrance in 2007, and I was already an industrial DJ, and I first started DJing this dark psy that then later on became what was then called the high tech.
Mm-hmm.
But back then it was, a bit slower than how it became. And there used to be a lot of offbeat parts that I personally loved because they reminded me of techno music, which I also loved, even if I came from the industrial scene that was a bit different, but definitely there was no rolling bass. Mm-hmm. In the psytrance, in the industrial music that I used to DJ. Those offbeat, we used to call them funky beats of the track. Yeah, were actually the ones when people were having the most fun.
Yeah.
And I started selecting tracks that specifically had that feature, and I think that feature stayed all throughout the genres that I explored in my career as a DJ, because I played progressive music as well. I played dark prog. Then I switched to underground psytrance that was after a while called Twilight, which I have mixed feelings about.
Just about the name, like Twilight, because of the vampire stories, Twilight.
Because I was never fond of that movie. I used to love vampires. I have the diaries of the Dracula family over there, and I'm a fan of real scary vampires. So what are these vampires that can stay under the light, and because they shine, because they're actually shiny under the light, and they're vegetarian? Like, are you kidding me? But it was what it was, and I didn't have to deal much with that concept until they named the genre of music I was playing after. Of course, it's Twilight. That is, the moment of between
sunset or dawn.
And daytime. Yes. Yeah. Which I guess I always called myself a sunrise person, not because I was happy to wake up early, but because I like to stay up late. And the sunrise is a magical moment.
Yeah, definitely.
If I'm playing that kind of music, I love to be, a word bridger between the night time and the daytime.
Yeah, it's magical.
And that's not much of a choice, even because that's when most of organizers put me to play, so I better like it. But yes, it's a very nice moment to play. But anyway, we're going back to Blast Police. because yes, all throughout my career, I saw that those moments were really appreciated by the people. Plus, in my hometown, no, I mean, my hometown is Sardinia, is Cagliari in Sardinia, but I live in Rome.
Yeah.
And in Rome, in general, in Italy, there is this big techno scene, like hard techno with a K scene.
Yeah.
And most of my friends are into that kind of music. And what they say that they're missing in psytrance is the straight beat, how they call it in Italy, the cassa dritta. That is, for me, there's quite enough of that straight beat in psytrance. But then I thought, why not developing a whole track or a whole set of tracks with this offbeat, but with underground psytrance sounds. And I explored the idea with a few producers that made me see how it could be versatile, because you could make really like progressive offbeat sounding music, like more like high energy at the edge of cheesy. But also something very dark and more similar to some dark prog, that is offbeat dark prog, but faster and groovier, but still keeping the offbeat. And they thought, okay, so there could actually be the scope of a whole new subgenre for this. And because I experienced this kind of comments and ideas within the city. I consider myself a city boy in general. So, there is this idea of psytrance being really connected to nature and natural environments, open air, which I love, don't get me wrong. Like, absolutely. Forest psytrance was quite on point because it reminds of the sounds of the forest, organic, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I always had very interesting, actually, the times that I had more fun were when I was having a psytrance experience at a squat in a city. Then, all the times from when you're walking back home from a party and you explore the artworks that are around the city, the graffiti art, that can be very interesting when you are in the mindset or like just out of the party. And yes, honestly, those are the moments of my psychedelic life that I cherish the most. And I realized that it was not an aspect of the life of a psytrancer that was explored very much so far. And so I thought, like, this is what I want to tell people about, about experiencing psytrance in the city, how it is like, and there's a lot to tell. And so I called this genre urban psytrance. It is just like psytrance, but urban, because fuck the nature. No, like we love nature, of course. Still, being in the city is nice.
I totally get your point. Yeah, there was this question I had. I think you already answered it like 50%. Like, you were asking artists if they could make such offbeat tracks. It wasn't like accidentally you discovered that artist XYZ had like an offbeat track already on their hard drive, but it was more like you asking them specifically if they would be interested to make a track to contribute for your label, or how?
So let's say I had some artists in mind because they used that kind of sonic solution in their tracks already. I think I remember this track from Oxyflux and Nine Sense, and there is this beat that made me suddenly like I found myself in this new sonic world, and it goes on for quite a while. I think it's like a minute of this offbeat with kind of a sort of melody, but it sounds very different and very alternative to the psytrance that we listen to, but it's still fast and still playful in a way. So I was like, oh, why not maybe go into Oswald, that is also my friend. I say, hello, hi, Oswald, if you'll ever see this. And I spoke to him about this, and he gave me good inputs. And then I explored this with different artists, but it took maybe like 3 years before I got someone on point, like to make a track. And the first one, one of the artists that supported me the most was Jonas Jimmy Green. And he was the first one that made the masterpiece of a track in that style. And another one that helped me a lot is Luciano Desert. That also made another track.
The tracks of those two guys are like, I really enjoyed them. I mean, of course, every track was very on point, but I remember those in specific, like the Desert track and the Jimmy Green track, which I really liked a lot.
Yes, and imagine those were the very first tracks that appeared, that were made in that style. And from those two, I sent it to the other artists and said, okay, because they're actually both quite different, you know, because one is more playful, more on a higher key, and the other one is more kind of serious, like in a lower key. And so, like, you see, like, this is the range, more or less, and you could maybe create anything in the middle. But some went even more underground, and some others went even more high energy. And I really liked it because the first volume of Urban Psytrance, that is the title of my VA, is quite diverse. Every track is quite unique, and I feel that it gives an overview on the potential of this subgenre that we are trying to create. Now, you know, the volume 2 and volume 3 are already in the making.
Okay.
Yes. I've been a bit slower than I thought, because there is a lot to learn when it comes to managing a label.
What's your main takeaway, or what was like the hardest unexpected challenge for you in creating this label?
It's funny to say that, but I'm good at managing the promotion for my clients, and I've done that before. But when it's on me, it's a bit like, okay, so I'm gonna do this because this is going to work. And then I saw that maybe something that I was doing wasn't giving the results that I was expecting, and so I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I should do one step back and try something else. And then reality is that I got a lot of work, like new clients and things that happened right after I launched the label. And, you know, now I understand my clients when I find them a bit slow at responding. And because imagine I am at the computer, this is my studio, and this is where I provide my services to my clients, and sometimes I'm like waiting for their reply for like half a day. But because they are on their jobs, of course, and I'm also on my job, and then I try to get my project going. And I think it's been quite of a learning process in finding the space and the time to do what it takes to be done at the right level to present it to the crowd, because that's what people expect, especially if you present an ambitious project with big names and you know, like, I want to be up to the standards also. Like, I have this thing, I quite like to be
and you're more attached, I guess, like more attached to your personal project. I imagine it like a little bit harder to be not as emotionally involved, like when you have another client and they maybe have like self-doubts about their project or how to present them online, how to communicate or whatever. They maybe cringe a little bit and whatever, speaking to the camera. And for you, if you see them, for you, it's just like, yeah, man, come on, do it. It's like for the social media management, whatever. But if it comes, if it's your own stuff and you should start to do it, it's really something different. I think it's very, very challenging to present myself or yourself. Yeah, because it's really more vulnerable. If they dislike some work you do for somebody else, you're a little bit more detached from it, and it's okay. You are aware of that not everybody will like it, but if it's personal, it's harder to
I think it's
reach.
that it's not about people not liking someone else's work, also because they normally try to tell someone straight away, hey, this product is not presentable yet.
Yeah.
And I tell my clients what to do in order to make it work, because like I'm good at finding the strong points and the weak points of every, from the releases to the artworks to the message that they're trying to send out, because sometimes creative people have great ideas, but they think that the strong points are not quite the ones that are actually going to make the product work.
Yeah.
And I'm good at spotting that and giving the right order to the points, let's say, especially when it's about communicating them. When it's about mine, it's a challenge, but also it's the natural step up, because I realized that as a DJ, not being a label manager, I grew as much as I could. I was lucky enough to play at a lot of parties and festivals around the world. I lived as a digital nomad for 6 years, almost 7 years. And I found myself at the right moment in the right place, let's say. So, I mean, I also think that I'm kind of decent at DJing. Otherwise, I wouldn't play.
Of course, I think it's always a mix of both. I recently had a friend of mine who wants to start a career in quotation marks in music. He's at the really beginning and was asking a lot of friends who are a little bit longer already into it what experience they could share. And what I said is first you need to be really passionate and consistent about what you're doing, and luck. So you need to be and you need to be good. It's a mix of all of this. It needs to be good. You need to be consistent and passionate about it. And you also need some luck. But yeah, I think sooner or later it will come. You need to really be patient.
I think it takes, it is a lot on how much space you are disposed to make to this part of your life, in your life. Because I realized that, I made certain life choices, like, the one of dedicating my work life to psytrance, which at the beginning, that was the idea. Then I realized that it was not going to work. I mean, I had to find clients that pay a bit better than that. Because, yes, especially if you work with middle-size / small clients in the psytrance scene.
They're fucking broke.
Yes, we end up all broke in the end. It's a lose-lose situation. No, but I was lucky at the beginning of my marketing career that I was working for a festival that also helped me find other clients and also helped me learn the basics of the job that maybe I studied at uni. And I worked a bit because I used to work in London, but I was in event management in some hospital. I was doing a bit of marketing, but not quite what I ended up doing for this festival and these clients that I had at the beginning.
Yeah.
But doing this also allowed me to be more exposed as a DJ, because I was part of an organization and I was managing the promotional events of this festival, that is WAO.
Yeah.
And this also allowed me to get my contacts to grow as a DJ, and I was free enough because all this work I can do it from a computer anywhere in the world. So yes, that's how I started spending on longer periods of time in Goa.
Yeah,
that is especially a few years ago, but also now it is a place where a lot of artists converge in certain moments of the year, and so you manage to find the artists that you normally follow or are interested in. You find them like sitting in the next table at some cafe on the beach. And so, yes, you make connections, especially if you are a bit, how to say?
Communicative.
Yeah, if you are sociable enough, If in my case, I just feel like whenever I love someone's music, I just go for them and try to get in touch. As I guess that it happened with you.
Mm-hmm.
No, with you, I just tagged you.
You played my tracks.
I just tagged you playing your tracks. Like he's maybe gonna notice me.
But yeah, I think this is like for a lot of people like the tricky point, especially when they are starting out, like how to get into, in quotation marks, the scene. But yeah, it's, as you said, for example, just being like really passionate about it, travel places where, the scene is happening. For example, for me, it was like with Square Lab Music. It was a party in Germany, like 5 hours by car. So I was already not in the period of my life anymore where I traveled to other cities just for a party. But because I was a really big fan of Square Lab Music, I asked a friend and we were traveling through half the country to this party. And yeah, this is why I eventually ended up being a member of Square Lab Music, because I was so passionate about it. I would drive like half the country just to have a listen to this music. Was like Airy Guys, Synthetic House, Desert, like proper packed lineup. I need to go there. And yeah, then I had a really nice party with these guys. And yeah, that's how things are happening. And of course, like being involved in events where you speak with artists or other persons in the scene on like a different level, like in terms of organizing and managing stuff, and not like in an fan artist relationship, but more like on the same level, in quotation marks. This is also really helpful to just make connections.
Yeah.
And
also making fucking killer music kind of helps, I guess, in getting into the level. Apart from partying with the right people and stuff.
It's a mix of all of this stuff. But yeah.
Yes, like in my case, because I've been DJing for quite a while, and I don't think I am the most skilled DJ when it comes to mixing. I think that I mix decently and I'm fairly precise in my style of mixing. And my selection involves a lot of tracks that not many people has access to, because I collaborate with labels and artists and sources of music that I make sure that I get to stand out. Normally artists are quite happy to share their music with me, and then I give back apart from exposure, money that I spend in music that is also like quite consistent. In fact, like I would ask your friend that wants to get involved in the business if he's sure that he wants to do that, because it can be quite of an expensive hobby. Especially at the beginning.
Oh man, yeah. Like if I if I would like see this just from a straight business view, it's really not logical what I'm doing. I spent like thousands of euros for equipment, for track, not like for track, but all in all, like a shitload of money, which I'm far from having earned. But yeah, it's also like, it doesn't felt like I had a choice. It's not like I do this because I want to create a business. I don't have another option. I just need to do it because I like it so much.
Yes, as I like to say, like music saved my life so many times, and my passion for music was one that never disappointed me, and that actually always helped me in getting out sides of my personality that needed to get out. And before playing music, I used to be quite of an aggressive type of personality, not physically.
Yeah.
I mean, I did martial arts,
Yeah.
so like I could
Sick.
also.
Sick. Which kind? What kind of martial arts do you do?
I did judo for 10 years.
Ah, sick. Okay.
And I did capoeira for 4 years.
Wow.
I did sword fight for 2 years.
Sick.
What else? I mean, I tried bits and bobs, like I did like a couple of months of Aikido and tested karate and Taekwondo as well.
Nice.
But I mean, judo, sword fight, and capoeira were the main ones that I was involved in.
I just started recently Muay Thai, and I really love it, man. Like this, to have like controlled environment for releasing aggression, it's such a valuable thing to me because I tend to struggle with articulating aggressions or anger like in a constructive way. I think a lot of people have issues with that. And man, just to go there and to kick pretty hard into like is the English word box sack? Is this the term, box sack?
With Muay Thai, you guys use the elbows and the knees as well.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm just started like some month ago. I'm an amateur, but I really like this, and I had similar experiences with music or like dancing really hard and using my body very extreme. Also had me like converting my emotion, especially like aggressions, into dance moves and releasing all this stuff which I always try to keep inside. And so
tell me about it. No, I know a lot about that, especially when it comes to dancing for long hours and push your body to the extreme. Especially, when I was young and I had all these emotions coming up, and that made me quite of a difficult teenager and a music lover and a long hour dancer. I remember the first times when I used to go to partying, especially like here in Rome or like in the continent, coming from Sardinia. I used to dance like crazy without speaking to anybody, just staying in front of a speaker for 6-8 hours straight and such, with no alcohol, no drugs, no nothing. It was just the pure love of for music. And I was the first one that would get into the club. Back then, I'm talking about gothic industrial parties. And I was the last man standing, and then I would go to the airport and then back home, full of energy, like dressed in PVC with all my makeup melted. It was so... I wonder the security guards, what they thought about me, the security stuff at the airport. My God. But they were fun times.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
It definitely sounds very good. Yeah. Like,
But then I was, like, when I started playing music, I unlocked something else because it was not only, receiving the music from someone, but also like expressing myself through playing music that is not necessarily producing it. Of course, I'm well aware of the difference between a producer and a DJ. However, I feel that the DJing is making art as well because of the sound journey that you create between, and you create it using beats of music that would never meet if there were only live sets. This gives the DJs the opportunity to get the dancers, the listeners, throughout a journey that can be of any kind. There are DJs that are very technical and they show their mixing skills because they're very good with their hands and such. And so you see crazy talented DJs that go from one track to the other and play like in 1 hour 30 tracks. I mean 30 maybe not, but 20 yes. And that gives the wow factor to their sets. And there are others that create a journey like throughout the tracks that you cannot really work out when a track finishes and when the other one ends. A lot of progressive DJs have this style, for example. Or there are those DJs that are word bridgers that start from one genre and go to their exact opposite. They're all, it's a creative world that I feel that was more appreciated in the 90s and the 2000s. And then slowly it kind of cheapened a bit for many reasons, because with the softwares that started coming out, maybe it was very easy for some people
It's super
to
accessible,
be improvised. Yes. And so there was for a long time this idea that anyone could be a DJ, which we could talk about for a very long time, because
I think it's a topic which I'm still annoyed of. Like, are you a real DJ if you're using sync and like all this? It's such a, to me, it's such a bullshit, polarizing talk about a thing. I think what should a DJ, like the main quality of a DJ is if he delivers a good set, like which make people dance, which make people having a good time. And man,
but what is a good set?
yeah, what is a good set? Of course, like the dance floor decides, like the people on the dance floor, like it's, if they could vote, like this would be like the criteria for me for what is like a good set, or what's the main thing what a DJ set is about. It's about for getting played to an audience, yeah, so they have a nice experience. Something similar.
Yeah, but I think that a set is made by the music selection, the mixing skills, the stage presence as well. Also, because there are some DJs that are really good, but they kind of fail at having that interaction with the people.
Communication.
That sometimes it's what people are after when they are dancing, because they want to to see that the DJ is having fun. Sometimes there are some DJs that maybe are playing a killer sets, but they do look like they're having fun.
They look all the time down.
Yes,
moving just a little bit with the head.
Some of them also make it a strength of their stage character. The fact that they are super focused and they barely look like they're having any fun, and then they make this crazy sounding music that you say, "Wow, is this guy enjoying it, or is this guy too focused because this crazy music is coming out?" There are some others. There's a type of DJ character that I'm not particularly fond of. That is the DJ that pretends that they don't like what they're doing. So they have this attitude towards the crowd and the psytrance scene in general, and they kind of show not much appreciation for the scene that is actually like filling their pocket, their calendar. But I also understand that that's a bit of a strategy, because like the dancer or like the follower that hears this crazy good music and feels, wow, and he doesn't even like it, so it must be a genius. Imagine if he or she liked it, how like he or she must be a crazy talented person. And so the world goes, and we all find our placement. That's also marketing, because you decide what are going to be the features of your DJ character. And yes, my case now I have two, because the new the urban psytrance, I decided to DJ with a different name. That is Kneeko, like simply Kneeko, but spelled with a in a weird name, in a weird way. And yes, my idea is to make two DJ sets, one for the normal psytrance that I still love to beats and I will never stop playing. And this new one for my idea of a new subgenre, which I want to take both forward with hopefully not leaving one behind.
When I was DJing, I was really like in terms of the craft of the mixes, I was really like a low effort DJ. Like I would never make like crazy mixes, never use like 3 tracks or whatever. And I actually also, like in psytrance, I have the feeling, because there's so much going on inside of a track. Yeah, if you mix 2 psytrance tracks, it's barely hard for people, if they don't know each of the tracks, to even identify that a mix is done by the DJ. So it would be always the same when I mix. It's like I even can do like the mixes without listening, because like this formula to me it works always. Like first, if I mix in another track, I will first bring it in just with a little bit of mids and highs, then slowly push them to 0 dB, and then somewhere switch the basses. And this like, if I take enough time for it, it works always. Like if I don't be like too much in a rush while mixing, then I will never fuck up the mix. It works always if there is not like offbeat bass line and rolling bass.
Using the sync button then.
Of course, and I'm using the sync button, but yeah, but for me it was really nice because my idea was, because when I started DJing, there were no psytrance DJs in the town I was living, so it was like, yeah, at least there is some psytrance playing. Like I don't care. We don't had the choice of DJs X, Y, and Z, so this wasn't so important. And just to curate, to listen to the music I like the most, was like the biggest benefit for me. And then just to have like a good time with the music I like the most for me. Yeah, and then sometimes I need to do a mix, of course, but this was like secondary for me. And the main reason was to listen to amazing music and show it to the people here. Like, this is great music.
No, in my case, I didn't have a choice because when I started DJ, there was no sync thing. Like there was no possibility, and I had to learn with a very cringy, like Gemini all-in-one DJ booth that had this. It had the CD readers, and you could like push this button, and the whole CD case would come out.
Will be ejected. Okay, what the fuck?
Yes,
you need to be really careful.
To push it in, and it didn't have the double listening on the headphones. So. Yes, I had to learn how to DJ with one headphones in and one headphone out, just as I'm listening to you right now.
And man, it's so hard. I tried it once, and I can do it. Like if I take my time, I can do it. But since I'm so used to using sync, I would never do this like in a situation where it really matters that I do the transition and the mix on point. I can do it at home. I understand the concept, but
I haven't done it in maybe 16 years or something like that. I would be curious to do it again to see if it works. But now, I don't know, but learning how to do that then made me, the first times that I started like going to a private party and started playing, and I had the CDJs 100 with a Pioneer mixer. I was like, this is so easy. So like, it was like the tracks would mix by themselves because I didn't have to do anything. I can listen to both in my ears. It's fine. And then, and nowadays I use the sync button because I think that the point is to be able to use the equipment that you are given at your best. And in my case, especially, I don't have to show my value to anybody. Like people that know me know that I can mix on rocks. So like if you give me. So yes, but if I'm in front of a crowd, maybe at a festival or something, and I want to make a very smooth mix and such, I will use the sync button. But what I noticed, and that I never let just the sync do the job, because most of the times the sync, is good at finding the right pitch of the track, so that it rarely fails that. But then it doesn't find the right point.
The transients, I had this experience. It was driving me mad when I just was a DJ, like to hear that the clicks were not like the transient of the kick, when they were like slightly out of sync
Yeah,
and you have like
then you
this
need to be
double click.
You need to understand which track is forward and which one is behind. And after a few years, I think that I know which track I have to touch. But I can make mistakes. But it's also nice to see a DJ make a mistake, because you know it means that they are touching the music.
It's not a pre-recorded set.
Yes,
he's actually doing something, or she. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, so the sync, I don't think that the sync is the problem. The point is, if someone is starting to DJ nowadays, I would definitely advise them to learn to DJ to learn to mix without the sync button, also because it gives you a different relationship with the music that you are playing, because when you are touching it, when you are understanding how the rhythms work. I gave some DJ lessons to DJs that started their careers. So some also became quite good.
Nice.
Yes, and at the beginning they were maybe DJing with Tractor, and they had no idea of the metrics. You know, they would just start a track whenever they thought that it was a good idea. But
cute.
Then yes, because it's so easy to get with these buttons, then kill the basses and start the other ones. But it's not, you cannot do that with the equipment that you normally find at the stages of parties and festivals and such. And sometimes you don't find I don't want to name the places, but there are some famous places where you go, and maybe there are the CDJs at 2000 Nexus, but the sync is not working. And
then you should be prepared. Yes.
In my case, I will always try to see if this time, but did they change it? Does it work now? No, it doesn't. Okay, guys, so we're gonna have fun.
This would cause me so much anxiety, especially at the festival. Oh shit, how to deal with that? I would probably stick to the good old mix outro into intro.
No, but even recently, I was at some party and they played with the CDJs 350. The ones that you can plug your USB drive in, but there's no sound line showing. There's only the time. It's really quite an old school type of jog as well. It's actually very, very loose in most of them, and you can't regulate the jog wheel.
Okay.
So yes, the first couple of mixes, I'm it's 2024. But then after, yes, it's actually fun and it's challenging, especially in the morning when everyone is so tired. And, if you fuck up once, then you look around and you say, "Oh, come on, it's not
nobody recognized
be listening to." Well, also because sometimes we make mistakes, but we are the only ones that realize. So many times I listen to DJs that are playing crazy, amazing sets maybe before me and make me so anxious about playing. And then they come off, "Oh, I sucked. I made so many mistakes." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Fucking perfect DJ sets or live sets, and they're not happy. Okay.
Wow.
But we are all particular.
Yeah. So I think we are almost very close to 1 hour of a recording.
Already,
yeah. But if you feel comfortable, I would ask you if you want to share your experience as a queer person in the psytrance scene. Doesn't need to be, but yeah.
What would you like to know?
What would I like to know? Yeah, because my impression of the psytrance scene is just in general, I feel it's not super modern, and because being a queer person or the rise of the awareness for queer topics is just a pretty recent one. I could imagine that it's not always have been easy to communicate your needs as a queer person in the context of the psytrance scene.
So let's say that what made me feel comfortable in the psytrance scene at the beginning was the fact that it was not a sex-focused scene, like me coming from the gothic industrial / fetish scene, and also having attended the queer gay scene of the towns that I lived in. I realized, because I always thought that my sexual orientation or my gender expression was not the core aspect of my being, let's say, or my lifestyle. It was all focused. They were aspects of my life, but they were not the driving forces of
not
my...
the center.
Yes, and so like finding myself in a scene where nobody cared where I was from, who I liked, what I was experiencing in my daily life as a person of any kind that I was, didn't matter, because we were all there, for our love for music, for art, and for everything that we are there for. And that was so relieving, and I really liked this aspect. This was nice until I started, DJing and trying to find my space in a scene that, especially back then, used to be very, very straight, cis, white man driven. And first of all, I'm a queer person. I never considered myself a typical gay person, because...
I think this would also be good if you would like introduce what your identification is like and what your sexual orientation is. So we're just not talking about you being queer. So just for people to get an idea of...
So, okay, let's say nowadays in 2025, I consider myself a pansexual person. That means that I am not attracted by specifically men or women. It's mostly like I am attracted by masculine energy in general. But I don't really care what's in the middle of the legs of anybody, But I tend to be attracted by men or transgender men, that are men that were born female and they express themselves with masculine appearance as well, let's say. But it's not impossible that I get attracted to a woman, let's say. But statistically, it's not not happening very often, let's say. And this, but because I believe that sexual orientation as well as gender identity can variate throughout life. There was a time that I described myself as bisexual. Another time that I described myself as gay. But then, I didn't feel... I felt that was matching for a while, but then it wasn't describing me anymore, because we are people, and we are evolving throughout time. And especially if I feel that I kind of unlocked a certain way of seeing myself from the point of view of my sexual orientation, that I really, I use the labels just to describe it so that people are more comfortable if they know what they can expect from me, that, gets a bit of social anxiety out of the place. And my gender, for example, like I don't believe in gender binarism. I do believe that in our society there are poles. So poles, like to be like a man or a woman, is what the poles of our society are, and you place yourself like
somewhere in between,
a sort of spectrum. But I see them as a spectrum. I don't think that because you have a certain reproductive organ, then you are necessarily belonging to the label of male or female, because that has to do more with the social role that we find in our society.
Yeah.
And me, like throughout my life, I expressed myself in very different ways.
Yeah.
Like there were times of my life when I used to wear female clothes, like I used to go around
I had
wearing
also a
skirts.
face like this. Yeah, skirts, man.
Did you? Yes, or like typical like female footwear,
Yeah.
or a lot of makeup. I didn't have my eyebrows for many years. Some of people that know me know a lot. They've seen a lot. Sometimes I like to post my old time photos, and I still see myself. Then in my case, it was a bit of a mix of influences that I had throughout my life that maybe brought me to look like this now, including my body that is changed. Because, let's say that until I was like skinny, kind of twink boy, then it was easy for me to see myself looking good in female, more like typically female clothes, but I never referred to them as female clothes. This is what I just decided that at some point I just wanted to wear what looked good on me. And I didn't want to look like a man or like a female. I wanted to look like some sort of like asexual alien. And I was succeeding at it, And then I don't know how I will look like in 5 years, and I don't want to be tied to like a bind because I'm a man. And so maybe what in 5 years I want to get rid of my beard and I don't know, and look more of flamboyant or more of what someone would call a transgender person. I don't know. I don't have that social fear, of maybe my masculinity is going to be attacked in some way because of the way that I will look like. I think that in me, like in you, like in everybody else, there is a female energy and a male energy.
Yeah, I agree.
And the levels of them can variate throughout times. There are sometimes it gets stable. Some people feel that they are 100% one and 0% that. And that is also fine and valid, because I think that we are all here in this world to do our best and to find our own answers. And these are my answers. And what your answers are might be different than mine.
Of course.
And it's okay. Like religion. Whatever can make sense for you. Most likely is different to what makes sense for me. And it's totally fine. When it comes to affirming myself as a professional, as a DJ, as a person in a straight man-driven circle, things may change a little bit because I know that my presence may make someone feel uncomfortable, especially because I'm not very good at hiding who I am and what I like, let's say. And even though, but I think they try to be nice. So when people tell me, oh, I had no idea that you were not straight. And I'm like, oh, come on, girl. But what are you looking at? Anyway, what I mean is that I felt like, especially at the beginning of my DJ career, I had to prove myself much more than a normal, straight-looking guy who would have to, And my experience was more similar to a girl who wanted to affirm as a DJ in that kind of male-driven circle. Because, yes, women were seen... but, it was something that it was... kind of unsaid because it was never popular to say, to be really outspoken about your backward mentality. But it was, it's a world of jokes on the backs of other people and sort of like macho mentality and chats and screenshots of chats that go around and stuff. And, it's terrible. And I don't wish anybody to go what me and some other artists, especially girls, had to go through in our career.
Yeah.
But I think that this is also at the base of the lack of female artists in our scene and queer artists, especially. I think that we are a handful of queer artists that made to get some space in the scene.
Yeah.
And now, if we want to wonder why this happens, I think that it's exactly the same reason why there were not so many girl artists in the scene, and now there are more popping up and more because I see that girls and female artists have more exposure and more validation as well by the artist community. So more girls are seeing other girls getting on stage and blasting and delivering, and that's absolutely great. But not the same is happening with the queer artists, with the gay, lesbian artists and such. Plus, consider that our scene is not seen very sexy in the typical, stereotypical ways that our society sees as sexy. And
it's not like super sex positive, you mean by that?
Yes, exactly. And that also maybe puts queer people in a position of maybe attending our scene for a limited amount of time. And then I've seen many people, some queer people are a strong part of our community and they've been there for 20 years and I always see them, and I guess that I'm part of them.
For sure,
but on the same breath, I'm talking about the majority of queer people. But maybe are they the majority of people that attend our scene that just come from for a limited amount of time? And it's easier to see it in the queer people because they are less, and so they identify them better. This, I don't know. I don't have an eye on the whole world scene, I know. But yes, let's say that it's been tough. And especially nowadays, I see that there's this race of organizers that want to show themselves as inclusive, which is amazing. And there are some that are being careful at selecting 50% of male artists and 50% of female artists, which is great. But some of them tend to miss the point slightly because it's not about numbers. It's not about being 50 and 50 because if it's about being inclusive, then you need to give space to all the minorities and people that are not represented as artists in our scene. Otherwise, in my opinion, what some are doing is like using the fact that there are female artists to push the sales of your event. And I think that inclusivity can be part of a marketing strategy, but if it's not used in the right way, can be a boomerang. And when it's forcing certain number of female artists in the scene because you want the girls on the behind the decks instead of doing a whole inclusivity job, then probably that won't be the right step, or something that I would suggest to an organizer. It's better to focus on good music because
I think it's such a small line and it's such a tricky topic to being inclusive and to not exploit like certain gender properties for marketing aspects or whatever. It's like a really thin line, and I also have the feeling like it's such a sensitive topic that it's almost impossible to doesn't offend somebody with the choices you make. There will be person saying it's too less of that, it's too much of that, or blah blah blah. It's but yeah, I also think like the quality should be always like the number one priority. And of course, in that context of really good quality, it's also important to give voices for minorities or less represented groups of people, of artists. Yeah.
Sometimes you cannot have the top quality at the events for simple budget reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I feel that, of course, there are still many, like the majority of artists are cis white men.
Yeah.
But yes, also like trying to give space to those who are not like that in general, rather than checking what someone has in their pants to decide if there's space for them or not is probably the right way. Because
I think we can agree on it, and I think it's also hard to disagree with this. Like,
yeah, but the fact is also it's a tricky it's a trick. It's a tricky topic. It's a tricky topic, but like also like the fact that we are also kind of struggling in debating it here and now between me and you shows that the whole scene and maybe the whole society is a bit behind in this. And I'm all up for starting to try and debate it and try to work it out with someone like you or with someone else. Whenever I have the opportunity, I speak about this. And this is a topic that makes many people uncomfortable. And some people that are not really touched by the issue don't really see the need of debating it.
And I think also like the most people have like, or as the presentation of this dialogue is like pretty distorted. Like when I have the feeling it's like also just extreme opinions, like, or when I see people discussing on the internet, especially in comment sections or whatever, it's like so over exaggerated and it's not like a dialogue. So yeah, I always have like the impression that I must be really careful what to say and what not to say when it comes to this topic. But this is not how the discussion should be. Like everybody should, like in a really innocent way, should say what's on their mind and what they think, and then discuss it in a respectful way. Like I think how we do right now. It's like
yes,
the way to,
especially like being respectful sometimes is like also like people have a distorted vision of what respect is about.
Yeah.
Because if someone is convinced that that I should shut up when someone tells me that I am I'm a sort of freak of nature, or that because I don't align to something, then I should take the consequences of the insults that get to me because I decided to be different and such. And me shutting up to that should be respect, because everyone is allowed to say what they say. I'm not famous for being the one who stays quiet, like I'm always kind of. Because when I did it, I felt so bad. Because
this also
especially when
feels so,
someone,
what you say feels so like it's so black and whitish. Like I think, of course, there are moments where to shut up or be quiet, but I think there's always like not forever and not like in a super 100% way. Of course, you can also communicate respectfully when you should say your opinion a moment later or whatever. Yeah, but I think like respectful communication is definitely.
Yes, and then there's the weaponization of this kind of topics and of traits of people, because like there are people, even artists, that are not comfortable in disclosing their sexual orientation because of the consequences that it could have with other artists or with their image as artists as well. That's pretty sad.
That sucks.
Or yes, also.
So I want to put a trigger warning here. In the next minute and 40, Kneeko will explicitly discuss violent action he was victim of. If you had any traumatic experience related to violence, please be advised and feel free to skip the next minute and 40 seconds.
I don't know, man. Like there are certain experiences that you have as a queer person that some others don't have, that are pretty similar to what a black person maybe experiences in a
discrimination.
white
Yeah.
yes, like I remember, for example, once someone, there was a very sad situation at a party in Italy. I was for some reasons I was chosen to be kind of bullied by this group of people that surrounded me, and they tried to put me on fire, not in the way I like, let's say, like
Okay,
in
but
the
not
middle
literally. But not literally.
no, literally, yes. Like they were there with two lighters and such. When one was distracting me,
What
trying
the fuck?
like threatening to beat me up because I was a fucking fag, the usual things.
What the fuck?
Two of them were getting my pants, and they were trying to put fire to my pants. It was like
Holy
very,
shit.
yes. And luckily, I'm a person that is able to defend themselves.
Of course, you did judo.
No, but most of all, when I grew up in Sardinia, looking very extreme, that made me learn how to defend myself. Of course, if I'm surrounded by 10 people, there's not much that I can do. But I managed to escape on that occasion. And when someone pointed out what happened on the event page, the organizer decided that it was something to be hidden, and they deleted all the comments and the posts of the people that saw what happened.
What the fuck?
And they told me, "Oh, we're going to deal with this way. It's like at the next party, all the gay people get in for free." I'm like,
what?
What are you talking? How can you tell that someone is gay, and why gay people would enter for free at the party where your attendants try to put fire?
That's
Maybe
such a dog shit way of dealing with the situation. What the fuck?
it's like, there's so much education. It's not like we are part of a company, and so like if we have the gay membership card, then we can. And that's not what we want, We just want the right to exist and to not have to deal with this every time that we put it out, pretty much.
Yeah.
And plus, there are all the people that don't even see the issue.
Of course, if it gets deleted, man.
Because when I talk about my difficulties as a queer person to maybe some artists that maybe lacks a bit of empathy and of understanding of these kind of topics, they say, "Oh, come on, it mustn't have been that bad. After all, like, you're here." I'm like, yes, but to get here, I had to go through something that you didn't really have to. But maybe it was for the way you dressed. It was not for because you were gay. And I'm like, it's then if it's discrimination based on what you wear, then it's more rightful than the discrimination that you face for being who you are. Why someone that dresses freakily cannot be taken seriously when DJing in an artistic scene? I'm not talking about working in the bank. I'm talking about DJing at a psychedelic party. So come on.
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, man. And I'm sure, unfortunately, it's just one of plenty of examples where you made bad experiences.
Yeah, don't get me started. But I mean, also, like, I am resilient. I am a bit of a strong character. So, whatever happens to me, it's better that happens to me than to someone else that maybe can be weaker and can be more, traumatized by what happens. But it's been quite tough at times, and it is still.
I'm very grateful that you share this experience here. It's I think it's very nice, and also, of course, I don't expect anybody to be like super aware, and also like awareness needs to be learned. But I think it would be also maybe like a nice wrap up of this whole podcast thing if you would describe the way you wish that a promoter would deal if something like this is happening, rather than just deleting the stuff. Of course, this is really bad, but I can imagine like people are insecure in how to deal with stuff like this, and it would be maybe nice to have a perspective of what would be a more appreciated way?
I think that having clear communication on the topic and pretty much just sticking to what our scene claims to be standing for, that is peace, love, unity, respect, most of it, that would involve respecting people no matter what their gender, their sexual orientation, their anything, because we are in a space where we can express ourselves freely. And I think that that's what the whole psychedelic scene is about, freedom of expression, and in a positive way. So, freedom of expression doesn't mean freedom of expression of hate towards the existence of someone else. That's not... And what I love of this scene is that also, no matter what you are outside, but our scene, the psychedelic dance floor, can be a place of transformation, because you can have those transformative experiences to dance, through dancing, through sharing the experience with other people, music, art, and such, that can transform you into a better person, and maybe letting go of something that maybe was holding you back from being a better person. Can be found in the dance floor. And if organizers who were more elaborated more of what is the experience that they are trying to gift their audience with, will be good. Also, being clear about, when I make parties, I always have a bit of a paragraph saying, this is a party where freedom of expression, everyone is welcome, all vibes are welcome, wherever you come from, whatever you like, you are welcome to join, as long as we are all there to respect for each other. And this works a lot, because if someone reads these on a description, even with the tail of the eye, it kind of stays in the back of their mind, and you can tell the difference when something like this is communicated exactly. Then I don't mean that every party should be filled with post-its with we are in favor of this, we are in favor of that. That is not but I would appreciate a bit more of communication and will from the organizers to educate who needs to be educated on the topic, because I also understand that not everybody is exposed to these topics as much as maybe someone else has been. And it's that's communication. Going back to the beginning of the podcast, communication is the
it's really nice.
And that's why you should hire me to make sure that you communicate it in a better way. No? Disclaimer, I'm not I'm not here to promote myself either as a marketer or a DJ. I'm not saying that, because you guys, you organizers should be inclusive. You need to book me at your party, you're going to show inclusiveness, because I'm sure that, it can be worked out in a way,
unfortunate way. If somebody really wants to put it in this unfortunate perspective, I'm sure they will find a way. But we both at least know that it's not meant like this. Okay, so I need about to leave soon, but before we wrap up, finally, I want to give you the opportunity to tell people where to check out your project.
Yeah, sure. So my label is called Blast Police Music, and we are on SoundCloud, on Bandcamp, on Instagram. And pretty much we are the only ones with that name, so it's going to be easy to be found. I also speak about us plurally when it's just me for now, but we like it. And then me, I am DJ ChildOS, and on Instagram I am Kneeko.childOS, but Kneeko spelled Kneeko. And yes, I also have a Facebook page, but I'm kind of leaving it behind, because I feel that
Facebook is dying.
You can see by the interaction on it and such.
It's full with bots. It's 85% of Facebook content is just bots.
Oh, I'm still attached to it, but because I'm an older
Yeah,
guy,
I know.
I like to read those discussions and such. But it's not the future.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think it's the future.
definitely,
So,
yeah.
yes, and I think the Instagram works best. It's the platform that they use the most nowadays. So
Sick.
yes, come find me there. If you would link,
Of course,
maybe
yeah.
my
I put the
pages,
links. I put the links in the
down.
description. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice then.
that'd be cool.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much
Yeah.
for having me and giving me the space to talk about certain topics because it never happened
Yeah.
before. So I'm really, really grateful to you for doing this and for doing this podcast.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm really proud of having someone in our scene who does this.